Hey guys, it's Ian from the Auto Barn, and today we're talking about why the 2025 ID.4 is an amazing EV option. Let's get into it. So the first reason I think you should consider the ID.4 as your next EV is simply the build quality, right? Not every company has the same brand infrastructure as VW. Not every company owns other luxury brands like Audi, Lamborghini, Bentley. And because all those companies already engineered a lot of their performance or luxury features, VW can put them in their own vehicles, not force the customer to pay that premium. You know, for example, we have this amazing, nice, high quality screen. It's not a screen that will, start glitching out in 5 seconds. We have this soft to the touch material right here, as long as this leatherette right here. And if you even look at the seats, these seats are bucketed while being perforated leather with the ID logo right there. And it doesn't stop there, right? The entirety of this vehicle is single seam welded, meaning that in case of a crash, the survival space, meaning the space where the passengers sit, won't crush as easily. It's more rigid. Secondly, when you put a whole bunch of miles on this vehicle, it's not going to creak and crank like maybe your old 2003 Honda Civic, right? That being said, there also isn't that plastic welding right here at the top like there is on some of those older vehicles, right? And even if you were to look at the door hinges, I promise you this is a lot thicker than you might see on the average vehicle. And when it comes to safety as well, you can see that there's quite a bit of distance between the side seat, the passenger seat or driver's seat, and the B-pillar. And that also goes for the rear door or the rear seats as well. So there's not really many vehicles you can really do this with and put your entire arm through the seat. What that essentially translates to is that in case of a side impact, the passenger, the driver, anybody in the rear as well, also has so much more time or so much more space for the airbags to go off. And every millimeter matters in those scenarios, especially when in a rear end or a front end collision, there's a ton of crush zones, but as you can see on the sides, there's not really that same thing. Another cool thing about these vehicles as well is that as you can see on the rear wheel wells, they have felt, and it's a little bit hard to see on camera, but most vehicles don't have this felt material. And essentially what this does is creates an amazing driving experience by you not really seeing or not hearing all of the road noise that goes on. The second reason would be the look of this vehicle. I mean, it just looks so sleek. You get to see the illuminated logo and the illuminated light bar. However, it is still a lot of sunlight outside right now. But even if you look at the front headlights, look at this. It looks almost like an eyeball, but in an amazing way that's not creepy at all, right? And even things like the front camera are pretty discreet and don't really take away from the look as much. We have this nice looking badges as well as the nice looking handlebars that you can just like that, right? As well as this really nice chrome trim that extends all the way from the front to the rear. And in the rear, in my opinion, it's the best part, especially with newer Volkswagen products, is the red logo that comes on at night with the illuminated light bar as well and these amazing looking headlights. The look of this vehicle is really nice in comparison to a lot of the other vehicles that are out here. There happens to be a lot of nice looking electric vehicles right now, like some of the Rivian vehicles or even some of the Teslas. However, with a lot of the legacy brands like Volkswagen or maybe even a Chevy, you don't really see any good electric vehicles or good looking electrical vehicles very often. They tend to make the electric vehicle in their lineup the ugliest one. But here is not a continuation of that pattern. This vehicle looks very nice. The third reason is the driving experience, right? This vehicle comes with massage buttons, and I have it on right now, and it feels quite nice, right? Massage seats, right? And let me just make a side point right now. These seats aren't gonna make you fall asleep at the wheel and essentially get you headed towards the back of a semi truck or anything like that. They're pretty subtle, but still extremely comfortable versus something that's gonna, unwind all of your knots and everything like that. But outside of that, this has Harman Kardon premium audio along the entirety of this vehicle, has amazing different driving modes, right? Has regenerative braking. There's a whole bunch of amazing things that make the driving experience extremely easy. And one thing I notice people find issue with is having these huge screens and no dials right here. Well, that problem is completely solved with all the voice controls that allow you to, control temperature, allow you to control any of the driver or vehicle settings, allow you to control things like volume, or like, for example, the different ambient lighting along the entirety of the vehicle, or navigation like this right here. It will control all of those different things for you, and you won't even have to lift a finger while you're driving. So distraction is not any longer an issue. When it comes to performance, these vehicles are extremely nice. This vehicle right here is the all-wheel drive version, so it has 263 miles of range. You can kind of see right here it's at 78% with 246 miles of range left. When it comes to the performance of this vehicle, it's roughly at 330 horsepower, meaning that it is quite zippy. You know what I mean? I'm only going to do this take once because every time I do it, it gives me an extreme head rush, and I am prone to motion sickness, right? So what I'm going to do is press the gas for 1 second, just so you might be able to see the acceleration and how it looks, right? And it's hard to see on camera, but just take my word for it that it's slamming me in back to the seat, and the acceleration is crazy, right? All right, I'm gonna do it right now. Oh my God. See, I don't even think I had it on my foot on the pedal for half a second and just slung me forward, really. And like I said, this vehicle has so many different driving modes that you can find whatever you want, whether you want to be a speed racer, whether you want to go get groceries in the snow time or in the winter time. Whatever you want to do with this vehicle, you can do it because it has all the different driving modes. And let me also add, if you did want to get the rear wheel drive version, you would also actually get a little bit more range. You get roughly 290 miles of range, meaning that, you can go back and forth a little bit more if you want to, but you don't get the same amount of speed as you would in the all-wheel drive version. One additional thing I did want to add that I forgot to is that this vehicle comes with a regenerative braking system, right? Or mode, I mean to say. Essentially, what that means is that when you take your foot off of the gas, the brakes are applied, and it uses the energy generated by the brakes to fuel it into the battery, meaning that you're actually saving more battery while you drive. So let me demonstrate what it looks like. So I'm going to accelerate really quick, and then I'm taking my foot off the gas. My feet aren't even on the brakes right now, and it's slowing down this quickly. And so all the energy that's generated from that actually goes to the battery. So it won't come to an exact stop. It'll kind of have you at this slow creeping mode, right? But that's always a cool feature. It's pretty standard among other vehicles, but with VW's technology, they have really made it feel nice as well, and pretty pleasant and not annoying to drive with. Before we get into the last point of this video, look at how absolutely massive this sunroof is. If you want the shade to go forward, it's gonna take like a minute or so because of how big this thing is, and it's not even moving slow either. It's just, this thing is so massive. Anyways, back to the video. So the last and most important part is charging, right? How do I include the charging into my life? How does it work? Blah, 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 right? So the VW ID.4 uses a unique charger that's found at many different Tesla charging stations where you're able to use an adapter to still be able to charge your vehicle. However, if you want to charge your vehicle at home, VW offers a 2-in-1 charging kit with a level 1 charger included in the kit and a level 2, right? The level 1 charger is able to plug into any outlet you have at home. It's very easy. I'll include a picture of it right here. Unfortunately, it only charges 3 miles of range per hour. The level 2, however, charges 21 miles of range per hour. And so the fact that the kit's it's about $700 makes it more than worth it. And if you just have an appliance outlet, which I'll include a picture of right here, you'll be able to connect it. And even if you don't have one of those outlets available, it's actually not too costly to go to an electrician, have them give you a quote, and transfer a normal outlet into one of those outlets, right? Outside of that, there's plenty of third-party options that will essentially install chargers at your home where you can use it and it'll, provide a little bit faster charging as well. But like I mentioned already, there's many different charging stations in the US that allow you to already connect with the ID.4, including some Tesla superchargers, right? On top of that, this vehicle comes with 3 years of Electrify America membership, meaning that you get a heavily discounted electrical or charging cost is what I mean to say, as well as some free charges as well on top of that. I believe it's roughly 5 to 8, depending on how you charge your vehicle. That being said, there's a ton of value in this. All right, guys, I hope you learned something, and I hope you consider the ID.4 your next EV of choice. That being said, I have my contact information right here and right here. I want you guys to contact me if you guys are curious or interested in buying an ID.4, or please like and subscribe. All right, guys, I'm gonna put additional information in the description. That being said, have a nice one.